People say the worst thing an alpha can do is abandon his omega. They're wrong. The worst thing is making him believe he was loved first. That evening, I sat alone in the DeLuca mansion, holding an ultrasound photograph against my chest. 4 tiny heartbeats. 4. After 5 years of marriage, I couldn't wait to tell my husband. Once, Ronan DeLuca and I had owned almost nothing. When his father threatened to disown him for refusing the family's criminal business, I worked nights while attending law school, just to keep our apartment. We survived because we had each other. Then his father died. Ronan inherited the DeLuca empire, and slowly, I stopped recognizing my husband. The front door opened. Ronan? He entered the dining room wearing a black suit, carrying a folder. I smiled nervously. I have something to tell you. So do I. He placed the folder before me. Divorce agreement. My smile disappeared. What is this? The council is demanding an alliance with another alpha family. His voice sounded empty. The DeLuca empire won't survive otherwise. I stared at him. And us? Ronan looked away. I'm choosing my family legacy. Something inside me broke. I thought I was your family. He said nothing. That silence answered everything. My fingers touched the ultrasound photograph hidden inside my pocket. I had planned to place it in his hands. Instead, I picked up the pen. 5 years, I whispered. And this is how it ends? His jaw tightened. I'm sorry. I signed. Then I removed my wedding ring and placed it beside his precious agreement. I packed 1 suitcase, nothing more. At the mansion doors, I looked back. Ronan remained motionless. He never asked me to stay. Outside, I pressed one hand over my stomach. 4 tiny lives were depending on me now. It's okay, I whispered through my tears. Papa's still here. Then I walked away, carrying the 4 children Ronan didn't know he'd just abandoned. 3 months after the divorce, I woke to blood on my sheets. I was only 28 weeks pregnant. At the hospital, doctors rushed around me while alarms screamed. Mr. Calloway, we have to deliver now. No. My hands shook. They're too small. If we wait, we could lose all 5 of you. That silenced me. Hours later, 4 cries, weak but alive, changed my world forever. Milo, Reese, Theo, and the smallest, Jude. They were placed inside 4 incubators beneath glowing hospital lights. I couldn't hold them, so every night, I sat between their beds with my law textbooks open across my lap. I studied contracts while Milo learned to breathe, memorized case law while Reese fought an infection, prepared for exams while Theo gained weight, gram by gram, and when Jude's heart monitor suddenly screamed at 3 in the morning, I learned how terrifying love could be. Ronan never knew. I told myself it was better that way. Then the DeLuca attorneys arrived. They knew I had medical bills, no job, 4 premature babies. They offered a settlement worth almost nothing in exchange for surrendering every remaining claim against the family. I signed. Not because they were right, because my sons needed medicine more than I needed pride. That day, I made myself a promise. No frightened spouse would ever sit across from powerful attorneys, feeling as helpless as I did. 8 years later, I stood inside my own Manhattan law office, while junior attorneys hurried whenever I entered. I'd become one of New York's most feared financial crimes litigators. That morning, my assistant placed a thick case file on my desk. Potential client, internal fraud, wrongful asset seizures, possibly money laundering. I opened it. My blood turned cold. Printed across the first page were 2 words I hadn't allowed myself to say in 8 years. DeLuca Holdings. The family that had taken almost everything from me had just hired me to save them. 8 years can change a man. When I entered DeLuca Tower, nobody saw the frightened Omega, who had once left their mansion with 1 suitcase. They saw Evren Calloway, senior litigation counsel. 20 executives were already seated when I entered the boardroom. Then Ronan stood. For 1 second, the powerful alpha looked completely stunned. Evren? I placed my briefcase on the table. Mr. DeLuca. His expression tightened at the formality. You're our outside counsel? Your shareholders hired me to investigate missing assets. Whether you like that is irrelevant. Several executives lowered their eyes. Ronan almost smiled. You've changed. No. I opened my files. You simply never knew what I could become. For the next hour, I questioned executives about shell companies and unexplained transfers. Ronan barely spoke. He mostly watched me. Then the boardroom doors burst open. 4 8-year-old boys rushed inside. Papa! I closed my eyes. Their nanny appeared behind them, breathless. I'm so sorry! They escaped the waiting room. Milo hugged my waist. Reese immediately started examining the model skyscraper. Theo complained that Jude had stolen his snack. Jude denied everything. Then I noticed the silence. Everyone was staring, especially Ronan. His face had lost all color. Milo had his gray eyes. Reese had his dimple. Theo carried the rare silver streak that appeared in DeLuca men. And Jude stared directly at Ronan, with the same suspicious frown Ronan made whenever he sensed a lie. Ronan slowly stood. How old are they? My stomach tightened. 8? His eyes snapped toward mine. He did the calculation. I saw the exact moment realization struck. Evren! His voice broke. Are they mine? I rested my hands protectively on Milo's shoulders. They're my sons. Ronan stared at the 4 children he'd never known existed. That's not what I asked. No, it wasn't. And for the first time in 8 years, Ronan DeLuca looked terrified of my answer. Ronan followed me into an empty office. Tell me the truth. I closed the door. I'm here as your lawyer, not your ex-husband. Those boys could be mine. And 8 years ago, I could have been your family. That silenced him. I returned to the investigation. Hours later, buried inside archived security files, I found something strange. An intelligence report dated 3 days before our divorce. Evren Calloway, suspected federal informant. My blood ran cold. Ronan entered behind me and froze when he saw the document. You weren't supposed to find that. I turned slowly. Explain. His shoulders dropped. The council told me you'd been compromised. They said federal agents were using you to gather evidence. So you divorced me? No. His voice cracked. They told me Magnus had intercepted an assassination order. If you remained my Omega, you'd be dead within weeks. I stared at him. You could have told me. If you knew, you would have stayed. That was my decision. My voice echoed through the office. You didn't protect me, Ronan. You decided my entire future without trusting me enough to let me choose. He had no defense. For once, he didn't try. I looked back at the report. Something was wrong. The authorization code belonged to an intelligence division that hadn't existed until 2 years later. This document is fabricated. Ronan stepped closer. What? I searched the archived metadata. The original file had been uploaded by one administrator, Magnus DeLuca, Ronan's uncle, the man who had personally encouraged our divorce. Then I found something worse. 17 shell companies connected to Magnus. Millions transferred from DeLuca Holdings over 8 years. I turned the screen toward Ronan. You thought you sacrificed our marriage to save me. His face hardened as he read the numbers. I shook my head. Someone manipulated you into destroying it, and whoever had done it had spent the last 8 years robbing Ronan, while he mourned what he'd thrown away. We were still tracing Magnus's accounts when my phone rang. The school. Mr. Calloway. Jude collapsed during class. Everything inside me stopped. 20 minutes later, I was running through the hospital. Jude lay beneath white sheets, frighteningly pale. The doctor pulled me aside. Your son has a rare inherited blood disorder. His condition has remained hidden until now. Can you treat it? We need a compatible donor urgently. Test me. They did. I wasn't compatible. Neither were Milo, Reese, or Theo. The doctor hesitated. What about their biological alpha parent? For 8 years, I had avoided this moment. Now pride could cost my son his life. I called Ronan. He arrived before I could finish explaining. Test me. No questions, no accusations. Just those 2 words. The results came an hour later. The doctor entered holding a file. Mr. DeLuca is compatible. Then she paused. The DNA screening also confirms paternity. Ronan went completely still. Jude? All 4 boys. She handed him the report. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Ronan stared through the glass at my sons. His sons. I missed everything, he whispered. 8 birthdays. Their first steps. His voice broke. I expected anger. Instead, he looked at me. I'm sorry you had to do it alone. That hurt more than blame would have, the doctor interrupted. We need to begin the donor procedure immediately. Ronan handed her the paperwork. Take whatever you need. Hours later, he was wheeled toward surgery. I walked beside him. Just before the doors closed, Ronan caught my wrist, not possessively, fearfully. If something happens to me, don't, I whispered. He released me. His eyes remained fixed on Jude's room. I don't care what happens to me. Then the doors began closing. Just save my son. For the first time in 8 years, I saw the man I had married beneath the alpha who had broken my heart. Jude's procedure lasted 4 hours. I spent every minute staring at the operating room doors. When the surgeon finally appeared, I stood so quickly my chair nearly fell. He's stable. My knees weakened. And Ronan, recovering. I entered Ronan's room later. His eyes slowly opened. He didn't ask about pain. He didn't ask about himself. Jude? He's alive. Ronan closed his eyes as tears slipped down his temples. Thank God. 2 days later, Jude was strong enough for visitors. His brothers crowded around his bed. Ronan remained near the doorway. Milo noticed him first. Are you really our father? Ronan swallowed. Biologically, yes. Theo frowned. Then why weren't you there before? The room went silent. I watched carefully. Ronan could have blamed me. The council, Magnus, anyone. Instead, he knelt so he was eye level with them. Because I made a terrible choice. He glanced at me. I thought pushing your papa away would protect him. It didn't. Reese crossed his arms. So you abandoned him? Ronan's face tightened. Yes, and I'm sorry. Jude quietly reached toward him. You saved me. Ronan took his tiny hand. You're my son. I'll always come if you need me. Something inside my chest shifted. Not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps the beginning of something less painful than anger. My phone vibrated. It was my investigator. Urgent. Magnus DeLuca, liquidating offshore accounts. Private jet booked for tonight. I looked at Ronan. He saw my expression. What happened? I turned the screen toward him. Your uncle knows we're on to him. Ronan slowly stood, despite the doctor's orders. Then we stop him. I shook my head. No. I closed my briefcase. You stay with your son. This time, I looked toward Jude. I'll handle the DeLuca family. Magnus DeLuca was halfway through the emergency board meeting when I entered. 12 directors turned toward me. Magnus smiled. Evren Calloway. The Omega we threw out finally came crawling back. I placed my briefcase on the table. That's the problem with throwing someone away. I opened it. You don't get to decide what they become afterward. His smile vanished. I displayed 8 years of evidence. Shell companies, stolen millions, witness intimidation, fabricated intelligence reports, payments connected to murders, disguised as territorial conflicts. Then I displayed the document that destroyed my marriage. You forged evidence, identifying me as a federal informant. Ronan entered behind me. He looked exhausted from the donor procedure, but his voice remained steady. You made me believe divorcing Evren would save his life. Magnus laughed. And you believed me. Ronan didn't deny it. That failure belongs to me. He placed another folder beside mine, which is why I'm correcting it. Magnus stared at the documents. What did you do? Turned over everything. The boardroom doors opened. Federal investigators entered. Magnus stood abruptly. You'd destroy your own empire? Ronan looked toward me. Then, at the photograph of his 4 sons, I'd accidentally left inside my case. If keeping it means becoming the man who loses his family twice, he removed the DeLuca signet ring. Take the Empire. Agents handcuffed Magnus. But my work wasn't finished. Over the following weeks, I negotiated a restructuring agreement. Criminal assets were surrendered. Legitimate companies were separated and placed under independent leadership. Thousands of innocent employees kept their jobs. Ronan lost most of his fortune. Strangely, he looked relieved. Outside the courthouse, reporters screamed questions. Ronan ignored them. His phone rang. Milo. He answered immediately. Hi. A pause. Then Ronan smiled. Yes, I remembered. He looked at me. Parent-teacher meeting. 4 o'clock. And just like that, the former mafia heir hurried away from reporters. Because for once, being someone's father mattered more than being powerful. Ronan rented an apartment 3 blocks from ours. Not a penthouse, not a guarded mansion, just somewhere close enough that the boys could reach him without entering his old world. He never asked to move in. He never asked me to forgive him. He simply showed up. At first, fatherhood humbled him brutally. He burned pancakes, mixed up school lunches, sent Theo to football practice wearing Reese's uniform, and once spent 2 hours helping Milo with mathematics before discovering they'd been solving the wrong homework. The boys found it hilarious. Ronan did not, but he kept trying. Every school play, every doctor's appointment, every terrible children's movie, he was there. When Jude woke frightened after a hospital nightmare, Ronan sat beside his bed until sunrise. When Reese lost his first football match, Ronan didn't tell him to be stronger. He hugged him. When Milo asked why Papa and Dad weren't married anymore, Ronan answered quietly, "Because I broke your Papa's trust." He never made me the villain. That mattered. Months became a year. Then 2. I watched the Alpha, who once commanded an empire, learn something far more difficult: how to be present. One Sunday afternoon, I was setting the dining table when Theo wandered into the kitchen. "Papa? Is Dad eating with us?" I looked toward the table. For years, there had been 5 chairs. 1 for me, 4 for my sons. I opened the storage closet and carried out another. Theo grinned. "Does that mean you forgive him?" I paused. Forgiveness and trust aren't the same thing. But he's trying. I smiled. Every day. That evening, the doorbell rang. Ronan stood outside holding dessert. "I'll just drop the boys' things off." "No," I said. He froze. Behind me stood 6 chairs. For the first time in 8 years, there was a place waiting for him. Ronan stared at the dining table. 6 chairs. For 2 years, he dropped the boys off every Sunday and returned to his empty apartment. Tonight was different. Milo rolled his eyes. "Are you coming in or not?" Ronan pointed uncertainly toward the empty chair. "Who's sitting there?" Milo sighed dramatically. "You, Dad." Ronan's eyes immediately filled. He looked at me. "Evren." "It's dinner," I said quietly. "Not a marriage proposal." That made the boys laugh. But Ronan understood. This wasn't forgiveness, erasing the past. It was permission to become part of our future. He sat. Dinner was chaotic. Jude stole Theo's potatoes. Reese complained about homework. Milo accidentally spilled juice across Ronan's shirt. For a man who once attended dinners, surrounded by armed guards and powerful alphas, I'd never seen him happier. After the boys disappeared upstairs, Ronan helped me clear the table. "I don't expect anything more than this," he said. "I know. And I'll never make another decision about your life without you." I studied him. 8 years ago, I would have accepted promises because I loved him. Now, promises weren't enough. But 2 years of showing up had become something stronger. Evidence. I gently touched his hand. "If we try again." His breath caught. "We start from the beginning. No mating expectations. No control. No empire." Ronan turned his palm beneath mine. "Equals." equals. His smile trembled. I can do that. Years later, DeLuca Holdings became entirely legitimate, while my firm represented spouses, financially abused by powerful families. Ronan never rebuilt his criminal empire. He built something harder, a family that trusted him. And every Sunday, 6 chairs surrounded our table, not because we'd forgotten what happened, but because Ronan finally understood that family wasn't something an alpha possessed. It was something he earned the privilege of coming home to.